I call to order the February 10th, 2014 regular meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We're sorry for the delay, but we've been in executive session since 5 or so, and we're kind of gathering our strength to get ready for this, and excited to be with you. But we welcome everyone and request that everyone in the audience please silence cell phones and any other electronic devices. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I like the dramatic lighting on the flag as we say the pledge. Very nice. Mrs. Witt, would you please call the roll for us?
Mrs. Bates.
Here.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby.
Here.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Coons.
Here.
Mr. Manera.
Here.
Mr. Nelms.
Here.
President Bolton.
Here. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special public meeting January 24th, 2014, special meeting January 27th, 2014, and the regular meeting January 27th, 2014.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Nelms. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Up. Who's got it?
Copeland-Dansby.
Copeland-Dansby, great. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? The minutes are approved as presented. Mrs. Bates, as Chair of the Finance Committee, would you please present anything that you need to present regarding the January 23rd, 2014 committee meeting report?
I present it as written for acceptance.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nelms, as Chair of the Policy Committee, would you please present the January 27th, 2014 committee?
I present as written.
Thank you. We need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tonight, we have a record number of presentations. With the last two meetings, we've made history by having incredibly short meetings, but we had to do some cancellations due to the snow and what have you, and we know that we can't delay our work, so we are so pleased to have so many wonderful people here, and it's most of this evening, I think, is a really moment to celebrate as well as learn. So the presentations that we have, the first one is going to be presented by Amy Englert from General Electric Aviation, and it's to talk about one of our great corporate partners who has been leading us and helping us all the way through our efforts on Common Core and improving the instruction and learning in the district. Ms. Englert.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Amy Englert. As Eve said, I'm the Education Programs Manager for GE Aviation. I just want to start by thanking you for the opportunity to be here and speak with you tonight and to update you on GE's relationship with Cincinnati Public Schools. GE Aviation has a strong partnership with CPS, but this is really based on our commitment to leadership, engagement, and volunteerism, which starts at the top for us with our President and CEO, David Joyce. As a result of David's commitment, GE Aviation's volunteerism in the district has grown annually. 14 school partnerships, which you'll see up here, I think, there we go, and nearly 10,000 GE volunteer hours last year. You can see up here all of the education partnerships in the region, but some of the key programs for CPS are tutoring at Evanston Academy, and so 40 or so of GE volunteers go to the school every week to tutor 5th and 6th grade students, so that's really become kind of a model for us. Triple Capstone Coaching Program at Hartwell and Roselawn. This program is run and staffed by our African American Forum, and that brings a couple dozen GE volunteers into schools on a bi-weekly basis to guide students through a capstone project. And then our GE Scholars, Junior Scholars, Advisory Groups, and OGT Tutoring Program at Aiken High School. We have about 100 regular GE volunteers that go to Aiken on a regular basis throughout the year to drive increased academic achievement as well as awareness, interest, and achievement in STEM topics. David has also been a longtime supporter of Aiken, and GE Aviation will donate more than $200,000 to Aiken in 2014 in support of new tech, the programs that I mentioned, and other initiatives for increased student achievement. In addition to GE Aviation's work in the schools, the GE Foundation has donated $25.3 million in the form of a $20 million grant, followed by a $5.3 million renewal to CPS over the past 8 years in support of college and career readiness standards. These dollars have supported nearly 250,000 professional development hours within the district, as well as implementation of academic coaches and the development of a student capstone project, which incorporates technology and critical thinking skills to develop students into 21st century leaders. This partnership has seen great success over the last several years, and we look forward to continuing to work together in 2014 and beyond. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Board members have any questions or thank yous or, yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for your continued support. And I do have one question. What are some of the components of your leadership track?
Within GE or the GE brings to CPS?
Yeah.
So within the grant, there's a huge professional development component, but we also are engaged in other ways. For example, we kicked off in January a Smithsonian project that we brought a black belt in to lead. So one of our master black belts walked us through the facilitation of the project since August. So we have people involved in that way, or through sessions at the district, we get involved as well.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
We're very grateful for the support from GE, and I do know personally several of the programs in the elementary schools are doing a phenomenal job. So tell David Joyce we said thank you.
Thank you, I certainly will.
Well, of course, since you did mention Aiken, I have to say at least one thing about Aiken, and I know that in very, very difficult times, as well as in the new design for Aiken, especially with the new tech and what have you, without GE, and I think the superintendent would substantiate this, without continued support from GE, there might not actually be an Aiken High School. So it's so exciting to see it be full and doing new and wonderful curricular things, and we thank GE for it. Any other comments? Because I also have to sing the praises of one individual by the name of David Joyce, who is a staunch supporter of our schools, and certainly, let me read if I could, because it's my understanding he has now received for a second time the Corinne Johnson Leadership Award, which is very unusual that indeed someone get it for the second time, but even the first time, it's a remarkable achievement. And without Mr. Joyce's support, both at GE and also helping us through this, not to mention his support and efforts and leadership in the Cincinnati Business Committee, Education Committee, I'm not sure where we would be, but the GE Corinne Johnson Volunteer Leadership Award was created in 2008 in memory of Corinne Johnson, a GE Aviation business leader and avid supporter of local community engagement. This award is given to a GE leader who champions the cause of employee engagement in their communities through their own involvement and support of employee volunteering. This award recognizes a GE leader who goes beyond expectations and significantly demonstrates and champions the cause of employee engagement in their business. David Joyce, President and CEO of GE Aviation, just up the road, received this award in both 12 and 13, making him the first and only leader to be so honored with this award more than once. And for his demonstrated commitment and engagement in community activities, and for his encouragement of employee volunteerism, and you heard some of the numbers that Amy shared with us. Through his demonstrated commitment and engagement in community activities, David sets a personal example for the business he leads and for GE employees worldwide. He dedicates his time and business acumen to community organizations in a variety of ways, but has a special passion for education. Indeed, we see that now with his work with the Smithsonian Partnership, on which he serves on the board. He serves as the Education Task Force co-chair of the Business Committee, as well as the advisory board of the University of Cincinnati College of Engineering and Applied Science, and as chair of the board of the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. In addition, under his leadership, GE Aviation employees support GE Developing Futures, which weekly tutors has tutoring programs, STEM initiatives, central office process improvement, and minority and district leadership mentoring. And the public might also be interested to know that on an annual basis, Mr. Joyce finds time to make sure that he meets individually with each board member to get our perspective and also share the perspective of the business community and what the future might hold for all of us. So this is an incredibly important partnership, and we are very, very appreciative of that partnership.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. The next presentation, as we move into this, another wonderful, extensive partnership. And I believe that Janet Walsh is going to perhaps help introduce all this company of wonderful folks that are part of the Be the Change launch for 2014. And so, Ms. Walsh, I will hand it over to you as Director of Public Affairs to introduce these people, and we'll find ways to thank them.
Well, actually, I'm going to turn those honors over to Dara Jenkins, who is
Excellent.
our volunteer coordinator, and she'll introduce this wonderful team that is leading up the Be the Change relaunch.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Welcome. Oh, thank you. I'm usually the one saying welcome, sorry. Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to speak tonight on behalf of Cincinnati Public Schools and Be the Change Volunteer Tutoring Initiative. I'm Dara Jenkins, the new district-wide resource coordinator for tutoring and after school. With me tonight, I have Emily Lewis, who is the assistant director for the Strive Partnership, and Patty Nagelkirk, who is the director of community impact with United Way of Greater Cincinnati. And I also have Joe Ross, who is a Tocqueville Society member with United Way. As you know, we have 36 full-time community learning centers throughout our district. A successful community learning center is made up based upon the needs of the community and the school. Represented here are the many puzzle pieces that make up a community learning center. And you'll notice volunteer tutoring is a part of a community learning center. Be the change. Laura Mitchell, the deputy superintendent, said it best. This campaign is the most ambitious tutoring campaign the district has ever launched. However, we're not doing it alone. We have partnered with two of the big wigs in the community, so to speak. It's a community, Be the Change is a partnership between Cincinnati Public Schools, the Strive Partnership, and United Way of Greater Cincinnati. Be the Change is a community-wide, coordinated volunteer tutoring recruitment initiative focused on achieving measurable results. This year, the Carol and Ralph Hale Jr. U.S. Bank Foundation stepped up with some additional funding, and we thank them dearly. One of the biggest differences that has opened additional doors for additional tutors has been the school business partnership. In addition to just recruiting individuals, we're actually going out and trying to recruit businesses and community faith-based organizations. Up here is just some of the partners that are coming in tutoring. There's some that have been with us since the launch 3 years ago, and some that are newbies that have just started this year. In all, we have 54 school business partnerships. And then this is just some of the highlights from last year and some of the highlights that are going on this year. From last year, we had 3 campaign co-chairs that stepped up to help launch the Work Pace campaign. Steve Schiffman, Doc Huffman, and Chris Foreman. With that, they launched they worked with 20 CEOs to launch workplace campaigns. They recruited over 900 corporate, community, and student volunteers. And within those 900, we have 650 of them that are actively tutoring in 16 of our schools. They also were awarded a $40,000 grant through Target to start really looking to build capacity for Cincinnati Public Schools with the kindergarten through second grade tutoring initiative. This year, they got to hire me, which is very exciting. The district has now a resource coordinator that is truly just focusing on the tutoring initiatives and after school. We also have 8 schools that are using an online tutoring tracking system that is measuring the tutoring hours and individual student impact. This is going to be huge to be able to report out to our funders and our business partners. We also have 2 additional campaign co-chairs that stepped up, Paul DeLuca from P&G and also with the Tocqueville Advisory Council Chair, and then Joe Ross, who's also with the Tocqueville Advisory Council. Already, we have 150 new tutors already in our schools working with our young students. And the recruitment efforts are in full swing for an additional 500 tutors. And here are just some listings of some of the places that we're already working with their tutoring campaigns. Be the Change is an example of aligning community resources around what works for our students. With all of the students that receive tutoring and all the services that are coming into CPS schools, the data has shown that tutoring has the greatest impact on student achievement. And with the third grade guarantee, it's probably the most important this year. So I know you're all wondering, what can I do to help? First and foremost, become a tutor. It's 45 minutes once a week, and if you have a partner, then you guys can tag team it, so to speak, and come every other week. Or if you want, I can help you launch a workplace campaign at your company or organization. I'll be there with you and walk you through the process. Or help me, the district, recruit additional companies to participate. To learn more, I put up there, please visit, you can't really see it very well because it's on blue, but it's www.cincinnati.clc.org/volunteer. And now, one of our key stakeholders, I would like to introduce Emily Lewis, the Assistant Director from Strive Partnership.
Thanks for having me. And just wanted to give you a very quick overview of some other efforts that we've been involved with the district. Of course, for the last three and a half years, we've worked very closely with United Way and with CPS and Julie Doppler and now Dara on the Be the Change effort, both in stepping up recruitment efforts and then also systematizing recruitment and placement processes within the district. We're now working on a big regional effort called Read On, which is all about identifying and scaling and spreading those things that work to ensure that kids are prepared for school and reading successfully by the end of third grade. Many of you have likely also heard of the Cincinnati Preschool Promise, which is somewhat top of mind for us right now, and that's all about getting universal access to high-quality preschool for all 3- and 4-year-olds in the city of Cincinnati. And then we've also continued to lead a number of data-driven initiatives, primarily support of the Learning Partner Dashboard and linking up data to student achievement and understanding what works and aligning resources in the community appropriately. So I will turn it over to Patty.
Thanks, Emily. I'm Patty Nagelkirk, and I work for United Way, and really I'm here to simply say thank you. As you already know, for those of you who've been around for a while and those of you who are new, is you have a host of partners. You have quiet champions and you have loud champions, and your United Way is one of the strongest, along with many others in this room and elsewhere. Wanted to just give you a snapshot of some of the things your United Way has done on your behalf. For Be the Change, in addition to helping recruit corporate champions, our Tocqueville Society is a leadership group for people who are giving significant amounts of dollars. And they wanted to say, we want you to use our brains and we want to use our resources, so put us to work. Joe is one example. There are many more standing with him to try to make sure you get all the tutors that you need. One of the reasons United Way stepped up for that is because of what your district administration and your teachers are doing. You're making sure that what those kids are getting is aligned to individual student needs and their curriculum. And if your school wasn't doing that, we wouldn't have been standing with you all along the way. We're investing in resource coordinators. We invest in agencies and programs. We put about $3 million into your kids and your families every year. And in addition, I would tell you that Julie Doppler and I are probably hip to hip on many occasions doing various work with after-school programs and program quality, and most recently work in social emotional measures through after-school programs. So just wanted to say thank you, give you a snapshot of what the work is that Strive and United Way and the district are doing together. And with that, if you have any questions about Be the Change, I will pass them off to my colleagues on my right and my left, and thank you.
Thank you. No? Well, great. Questions, board members, comments?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Nelms.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. I got probably 2 questions fused into 3. First of all, how do you recruit and identify your tutors? And is there a primary source that you get your tutors from? How do you?
So how are we recruiting?
Recruit and identify your tutors? Is it, are they required to have a background check?
Correct. So all of our tutors are required to go through it. They have to get just a local background check. With some of our larger corporations, we work with them in our legal department if they do already have a background check and so forth. So we work with like P&G and Great American Insurance. We have a kind of a contract with them. But yes, they're all required to do a local background check. The recruitment is mostly people that maybe have been a part of it that then will tell us about another company or organization that we should reach out to. Joe is doing a wonderful job at that. He is not afraid to pick up the phone and call anybody and everybody, which is great because we need, another 500 tutors. So yeah, the recruitment is pretty much, if you know of somebody or you know of an organization, let us know and we will call them and so forth.
Good young man right here.
All right. Mr. Manera.
I'm very grateful that we're able to connect to the community by bringing in these tutors and in that process then raise the achievement level of our students. I'm curious to know, and it might be too early in the program, especially with your position now, coordinating all of this. Do you foresee, or may I suggest that we think about pathways of mentoring? There might be tutors that might be willing to have more of a 1-year or 2-year commitment, and this could create relationships that could lead into mentoring through high school or even college, with having someone next to them in their life that could come in through the public school system. And just as a thought that relationships are going to be built, and that's mostly what our students need, is just have someone that they can bounce ideas about careers. Sometimes their families can't help them through that. So I'm just thinking there's a possibility there to grow this program into something else.
And I know we do have some tutors that have been with us since the very beginning. Be the Change actually launched about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And so we do have some that have actually turned into mentors. They went through CYC and went through the training and so forth. So we do have quite a few of them that have actually turned into, long-term mentors to their students and actually have followed through with them every year.
It would be great to encourage that.
It would, with all of them, it would.
I think one thing we're pushing with the tutor program is you might have 2 adults with 1 student. So those 2 adults are always with, I've used Billy as my student. You and I always have Billy. We alternate our schedules, life happens. If you and I can't be there, then we get our spouses or somebody else that we know. So somebody's always consistent with Billy to the best that we can do it. So you don't get the mentoring that you're alluding to, which is, nirvana, so to speak. But you do have a consistency of message from the same group.
But we do have programs that don't have that dual tag team, like you called it. We do have programs that do have 1-to-1 tutoring, and it's a commitment of a year or so.
Right. This right now is just a tutoring with trying to get that going. And the foundation for this is, we want, when you're sitting there 10 years from now, we want to be talking about getting our 3000th tutor instead of our 1,500 tutors.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Ms. Copeland-Dansby?
Good. Thank you, Dara, and everyone else for your presentation. I heard you talk about your data collection as you're, I guess, tracking the hours that tutors are spending. Can you talk a little bit more about that, or how, or perhaps you'll be able to give us, a report again? Are you looking at it 6 months, 90 days, or however?
Sure. So the tracking system was developed with Sarah Trimble Oliver here at the district level and with somebody over at Strive. And so what it is, it's an app that can be installed on your smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone, like my mother, then you could log on after you got back from tutoring, or even we do have the capability of them logging on while right at the school. So pretty much it links you. The tutor has to go in and link the student to you. That's been, I will be honest, one of the challenges, just because the spelling of some of our students have an extra vowel or something like that. And so we do have to make sure we have the correct spelling. Once you're linked, so a student can be linked up to 2 or 3 different tutors, and then every time that tutor comes in, they go on, they log on, and they link to that student. The reports that will be able to be produced come in through that student ID number, and then we're able to dump it back in to LPD. So then through LPD, then we can be able to run reports to report out to you. Like I said, we do have this up and running at 8 of our schools. It's 8 of our big schools that we decided that we were, didn't want to take off too much. First of all, we didn't know if the system could handle all of the districts, so we wanted to take off a good slice of the pie. So hopefully, I'd love to be able to say that we'd be able to report back to you guys here at the end of the year and be able to really show you some gains out of those 8 schools.
That'd be great, and I think using the app and things that are convenient for folks, that's fabulous.
Our high school and college students love it.
I believe it. Thank you.
Quick question too. Thank you too. I want to echo everyone else. This is really exciting stuff. So thank you for your work here. A question about the data. You'd put up on one of the slides that the tutoring showed bigger gains than any other source or any other outside thing that was happening. What were some of those other things that was being compared to?
Well, through our Learning Partner Dashboard, we're able to look at after-school mental health. We're also able to use it to pull behavior referrals and so forth. And so with that system, we're able then to also flag our students that need some academic assistance, and that's kind of how we target our students with the tutors that we're bringing in. And so with those data points and so forth, we've been able to show that our kids that get tutoring of some sort of one-on-one tutoring have bigger, larger gains than a student that is not getting tutoring.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. The district and the children, the staff, we're so fortunate to have that kind of support. Thank you. And now we have our Public Affairs Director yet again to introduce the next segment of real celebration and award-winning efforts on the part of our partners. Again, Public Affairs Director Janet Walsh.
And it is a great celebration tonight. Actually, Board Member Manera's comments about mentoring is a perfect segue to this next presentation. It is my privilege to announce Judy Bimiani. She's Vice President of Talent Acquisition and Diversity for Luxottica. She'll be followed by our own Paul Daniels, who's principal of Withrow University High School, Jane Keller, who is president and CEO of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, will share a few words. And I don't know whether Alicia Tidwell is speaking or not. Probably not, because she's very eloquent, and it might take us over time. But they are just back from being honored with a wonderful national award, and now I am going to give way to them and let them tell you about the glory of the award and what it means to our kids, especially at Withrow.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
People here, they think you are equal to everybody, and whenever you need help, your mentor always with you. This helps her give us hope for the future.
This is a young man that I think is going to do great things. I'm excited to see how his life is going to end up.
I don't know where I probably would have ended, like if I would be in this program or I would have met her. She's like my second mother now. She encouraged me to do things that I probably would have done.
To hear the stories of young people who say, you know, without my mentor, my life would be very different. You know, I wouldn't be on the path that I'm on.
This program means to me opportunity.
In school, it helped me make better decisions and smart decisions.
Just being in a community where everyone's real nice, everyone wants you to push yourself and do certain things, it's like a positive feel here.
This kid's really grown and developed. You can see it year over year.
He's looking at me as a resource and being able to learn something new.
Mentors say, I went into this thinking I was giving to somebody and something, but in actuality, I gained much more than I ever imagined.
It's just the energy, what you get from the program, you can't really explain it. It's just something knowing that you're giving back, hearing the stories, seeing the growth. It's just amazing.
I'm very excited because I get this scholarship and I don't believe I can get this.
It's always someone out there that's pushing me forward and striving for the best.
And when they come in the building, I see hope. And I want them to leave with hope.
So good evening. Thank you. My name is Judy Fimiani, and I head up talent acquisition and diversity for Luxottica, and we're very privileged and honored to be here tonight. This is a 13-year partnership, and we could not have won this award without the partnership, the true partnership of Cincinnati Public Schools, Withrow in particular, and the CYC. So this award really is a joint award. It is not an award for just Luxottica, but it's really about everybody doing this. People like Alicia, who have been here, she was one of our first mentors. She has had the passion to continue this program throughout leadership changes in the organization. She's seen students come and go, and everyone knows her as either Miss Alicia or Miss Tidwell, and the stories she has are just phenomenal. Her passion for the program and for the students is unbelievable. She makes a believer out of everyone. So most of you probably already know her. If you haven't met her, spend 5 minutes with her, and you will absolutely be blown away by what mentoring can do. We have a unique program in that we bring the students up to us into our organization so they see what it's like to work within an organization. They're partnered with someone for 4 years, so when you ask about that, many of these students are from 9th through 12th grade. They have their same mentor for that period of time, and those students, not only do they come up every 30 days, but then we have about 50% of our mentors meet with the mentees on other occasions, whether through group mentoring or other programs. So just so many wonderful opportunities, and we see many segues. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that through those collective efforts is why we're here. At Lux, we really believe in helping the world see, and we think that this program allows for students to see a brighter future. There are so many great stories, but I wanted to just share a personal experience I had yesterday in that it was a message to me that reminded me why mentoring is so important. As I was sitting in church, we get a minister's challenge each week, and his challenge was pay it forward. And what he said was, if it's one person this week, if there's just one person you help, and you help them do something that they can't do for themselves, you're paying it forward. And when they ask you what they can do for you, you just ask them to pay it forward to somebody else. It got me thinking about mentoring and how many mentees I know who turn into mentors. So I would like to think that All of us this week should be paying it forward to someone, whether it's through tutoring or mentoring, but what a wonderful way. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul Daniels and thank him for our partnership.
It's amazing when you think about 13 years, where most of us were maybe 13 years ago, and that Ms. Tidwell and the Luxottica Corporation and the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative have invested heavily in a 13-year partnership. That's very rare. Oftentimes, something lasts for a little while and it kind of fades away. This has only gotten, it's like a fine wine, it's gotten better with age. But Ms. Tidwell, your whole, in the team, you all look as great as you did 13 years ago. So we were, the Corporate Mentoring Challenge was started a year ago through the First Lady, Michelle Obama. And it was a challenge to corporations to reach out to youth to make a difference. So this year was the second installation, the second conference. And the Lux Tiger Mentoring Program was awarded the Corporate Mentor Challenge Award. It was for a small market, small community type endeavor. And so when we put it up against the other winners, Bank of America, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, and Emory Coastal Bank were the other awardees. So to be put in that same company is astonishing. It's important to thank Ms. Fimiani for her associates and her employees. This is time away from their job that they are not required to do more. They are allowed to take the time off to spend one day, an entire half a day with our students. And that is rare in today's world, so we want to thank you for that. And also for the CYC, the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, because a lot of the little things, the setup, the pairing, all of those important components, the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative makes sure that happens for us. As Ms. Fimiani said, Ms. Tidwell has been the driving link between the school, the administrators, the associates, and most importantly, the students. Through the mentoring program, she has linked associates to students who have built mentor-mentee relationships that have started in the 9th grade, followed many of them all the way into and through college. So these relationships are founded on trust, open communication, and long-range college and career planning, which is very important in today's environment. We often say that the true testament to anything that's great in a school is the feedback that you get from your students, because they're always honest and unfiltered. And I have to say that I have never once heard a student come back from their day and say that they didn't learn something, that they wanted a new mentor, or they wanted to no longer be part of the program. Oftentimes they'll ask, Mr. Daniels, why can't we go 2 days a month? So they want more, and I think that's a true testament of the program. So I just want to close. I want to thank Luxottica. I want to thank the administrators that have come before me, 13 years worth of administrators that helped foster this program, the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, the superintendent and the Board of Education for their continued support of the Lux Tiger Mentoring Program. What started as mentoring has now been an outgrowth to one-on-one computer technology initiative. Ms. Tidwell and her team have helped us with dual enrollment. They also continue to help us with the blended learning model. So what started as something very small has become an entire school-wide initiative. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Now we have Jane.
Good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Great partnerships all kind of think the same. So all my comments have been said by Judy and Paul already. But I do want to say a big thank you to the Board of Education, to the administration. You have valued mentoring for a very long time. We've been in partnership for over 25 years. And partnerships have common values. And they work because of the common values. And I think this district and the board and the administration were way ahead of their time 25 years ago about the importance of mentoring and being very intentional and focused about that. So I want to thank you very much for that. I want to just step back and add to the comments I reflected back and thought about, why does this partnership work really well. And I start out with 20 things, and I called it down to 10, and I put it down to 5. And these are kind of key ingredients, because often people say, why does it work? So I want to share those with you, because people always say, can we replicate this? And yes, you can replicate this model. First and foremost, you heard it before, it is commitment for the long run, the long haul. And it's because people are committed to kids and their families and making sure they have opportunity in life. And the goal here was to make sure that kids graduated, big milestone, and then did something thereafter. 2, it's a key liaison and champion. The organizations, all of them, champion it, and they all have key liaisons. And so the people on the ground, the footprints, are really strong, whether that's Alicia, whether that's Paul, or whether that's Carmen Toller, who is the mentor coordinator. And without them, the logistics and the work around this just wouldn't happen. Number 3, there's clear agreement on the objective, the roles of each of the partners, and the key outcomes. 4, there's a willingness to share the cost, whether that's human resources or that's financial costs, and you find that within this partnership, and it's been there for 13 years. And then lastly, it's the continual drive to always improve, and so you're always stepping back, doing a debrief, how can we get better at this? And often you say, okay, what's the impact? Well, we've been tracking the graduation program rate with this program over the last 7 years, and went back and pulled it together, and the graduation rate is 94% of the students who have been involved in this program over the years of graduating. I think that's a salute to the partnership and to the commitment of everyone who's been involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board members have any questions or comments? I can't believe somebody I know is not going to speak tonight, but.
What do you need me to say?
I don't know.
I just stand before all of you as just a hope deal. That's all I am. That's it. Every day when those kids come to our office, I see hope in them. That's it. I see greatness and I see hope. In spite of where they live, what their circumstances, mitigating or otherwise, I see hope. And that they need to know that Cincinnati Public Schools do graduate great leaders. I stand here as a product of what you guys have done.
I know this.
I am a leader, and I'm good at it.
Amen.
So at the end of the day, I'm just a hope dealer, and I do it for my kids. Jennifer would always say, Jennifer Wagner, what is it about? It's about my kids.
That's right.
It's always at the table. It's about my kids. So at the end of the day, I'm just a hope dealer. And I thank you for the opportunity to give hope every day.
Thank you. Any comments from our board members for this illustrious group of folks?
I have a comment, but go ahead, Mr. Nelms, you go first.
All I can say, you got it. Most of the kids that come before us, we consider them, and I think it's become too cliches as at risk when really they're at promise. And we just need to bring it out.
Thank you, Mr. Nelms. Mr. Manera?
Definitely, I want to thank you for all your efforts and the example that you are setting in our community. I get the privilege not to be from Cincinnati and just see how wonderful our companies that we have here and our residents that we have here. I always find myself telling people that deep down in the hearts of all Cincinnatians, there is a giving heart, a heart to give back, pay it forward. Unfortunately, not a lot of them are willing to step forward and do it. But I really thank your organizations for giving that opportunity for those who are bold enough to step into that faith, because it's not easy. You are asking for a commitment. You are asking for a relationship to be built, but that's what our students need. That's exactly what we all need. I know I wouldn't be here if I didn't have mentors in my life. So I want to thank you, and I want to encourage those in the audience or listening on the internet, now that we're streaming, to contact the organizations nearby or promote your business and your businesses. This is an example of what we should be doing all throughout the city. So thank you, and keep doing the great work.
Thank you, Mr. Manera. Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate it. And congratulations on the award. Our next presentation is from our own Director of Athletics, Dave Durker, who has a number of wonderful things to celebrate, and we welcome Mr. Durker.
Hey, Dave.
Thank you for the scheduling so that I can follow those presentations. On January 28th, the Cincinnati Enquirer published its list of All-Stars, first team All-City All-Stars for the fall season here in Cincinnati, and 14 CPS students were among those that were selected. So I've been asked just to give a quick thumbnail sketch of their accomplishments, which I will proceed to do. In football Division II defense, DeShannon Oates, defensive lineman from Withrow. As a senior, he was voted third team All-State, first team All-Southwest District, and accounted for 78 tackles during the regular season. And you can see these up on the screen. Reggie Howard, a senior linebacker from Withrow, accounted for 104 tackles during the regular season, voted first team All-State, and plans to play next year at the University of Cincinnati. Elijah Ballou, a senior defensive back from Walnut Hills. As a safety, he was voted second team All-State, first team All-Southwest District. He recorded 79 tackles in 8 games. He will play football next year on scholarship at Bowling Green State University. Football in Division 5 through 7, Jordan Whaley Watson, offensive lineman from Clark Montessori, voted Division 5 special mention All-State, first team All-Southwest District. He will sign a letter of intent to play football on scholarship at Division 2 Kentucky State University. Football Division 5 through 7, Kamoni Shields, senior linebacker from Schroeder, voted first team All-Southwest District and third team All-State. Anaya Freeman, a junior from Riverview East Academy. He was voted first team All-Southwest District and special mention Division 7 All-State. Aaron Abernathy, defensive back from Gamble Montessori. As a junior, he was voted first team All-Southwest District and special mention Division 7 All-State. Javante Lipscomb, a senior from Gamble Montessori, listed under the category of all-purpose. He accounted for 2,066 all-purpose yards. That's running, receiving, returning, selling popcorn. He was voted Ohio Valley Athletic League Offensive Player of the Year. Division I girls tennis in singles, Lily O'Toole, a freshman from Walnut Hills. Only a freshman, she was Division I state singles qualifier and voted honorable mention by the Greater Cincinnati Coaches Association. Division I girls cross country, Olivia Connaughton, a freshman from Walnut Hills. She finished 4th at the district meet, 13th at the regional meet, and finished 36th at the Division I state meet. That's not bad for a freshman. Logan Wiedemann from Walnut Hills, a junior, set a record this year. He tied for 5th in the state soccer records book for most consecutive shutouts by a goalie in a season with 8. Oh. He was voted first team All-Southwest Ohio by the Greater Cincinnati Soccer Coaches Association. Division III boys soccer, Noah Wesley Chevalier from Clark. As a senior forward, he scored 22 goals and recorded 7 assists. Ian Patton, also a senior from Clark Montessori, scored 11 goals and assisted on 6 others from his midfielder position. And Division I girls soccer, Alexis Keel, a senior from Walnut Hills, voted first team All-Southwest District by the Soccer Coaches Association and second team All-State. So those 14 athletes represented the district very, very well in the All-City.
All right.
All-City.
Wonderful.
We'd also like to take a second to mention an award won by one of our athletic directors, Tom Donnelly, the athletic director at Walnut Hills High School, voted by his Southwest Ohio Athletic Directors Association peers to receive the 2014 Athletic Director of the Year Award. Presented annually to an individual who exemplifies the highest standards of their profession and who their influence on the lives of the young people under their direction has made significant contributions to their school and their community. He has served as athletic director at Clark Montessori Junior Senior High School in its early years from 2001 through 2007-08, and has served as the athletic director at Walnut Hills High School from the start of the 2008-2009 school year to the present. He is certainly a major reason why the extracurricular programs at both of these schools have grown and flourished. And last but not least, I was asked to share with you the people who are going to be inducted into the Cincinnati Public Schools Athletic Hall of Fame. This will be the 5th class to be inducted. So far, this has been a tremendous idea to see come to fruition because, you know, our school district goes back. The second longest continuous high school football rivalry in the country. Second longest high school rivalry in the country between Woodward and Hughes, first played in 1878. Okay, people said that it wasn't until 1890 that Massillon played can't think of the name. Anyway, Woodward and Hughes had played 16 times before they played for the first time. So we have a history here. And going back in time, we've honored the first African-American to win an individual gold medal in Olympics. We honored a guy who was kicked off the 1936 Olympic 4x100 relay because he was Jewish. He went to Hughes High School, his name was Sam Stoller. Hitler was in the stands and says, "Get him out of here." So they took him off the team, and guess who they put in his place? Jesse Owens, just a minor figure in track. So, I mean, we have got, as you delve into these people, you find out some incredible things. One of the guys that we're going to honor here is Coach Art Reisner. He first started coaching football in 1919 at a place called East High School. For those of you who are savvy to East High School, that's what became Withrow. He started coaching in 1919 and was coaching in 1965 when he passed away. Went home feeling sick one day, went home and sprawled out on his bathroom floor. And it's 1919 to 1965. You put people like that in the category of you don't see anything like that anymore. So we've got some incredibly talented and gifted people. And I'll just run through the list. William Anderson went to Taft High School, class of 1956. We induct 8 living, 2 coaches, live or dead, current or past, and then 4 into the posthumous category. So that's, we induct those, that number each year. Rodney Heath, who played football and baseball at Western Hills High School. You may remember when he went on to play with the Bengals. Annette McCall, tremendous basketball player from Withrow, class of 1994. Al Nelson, Taft, class of 1961. I should mention Al Nelson, Walter Johnson, who's posthumous, and a guy named Carl Ward, who's already been inducted. And a guy named, there's a 4th guy. All 4 of them were in the Taft backfield in 1961, and all 4 of them went on to play in the NFL. So there aren't too many people that can claim. You got 4 guys on one team that all made it to the NFL. Lewis Orr, great basketball player from Withrow. John Rao from Walnut Hills won 2 state tennis championships during his time there. Carl Rhodes, you may remember by his nickname, Tuffy. He played in America for a while and then went over to Japan and set the career home run record in the Japanese league. Reginald Victor, state champion in track and field from the old Central Vocational. 2 coaches, Arch McCartney, for which the field at Western Hills is named. Art Reisner, who I mentioned before, started football at East and won 3 state championships, won 2 track and 1 cross country at Central Vocational during his time. Posthumously, we have Walter Johnson, another member of that 4-member backfield. Horace Pumphrey from the class of 1942. Michael Schott from West High, class of 1966, and Phil Wheeler, who was a tremendously talented athlete with incredible records, and unfortunately he passed away before we could get him in, so he's going in this year under the posthumous category. But to past, present, and future athletes, we thank you for all your support, continued support of our athletic programs, and that's all I got.
We have some questions and comments, I'm sure. I know one of the comments I want to make is I want to particularly thank you, Mr. Durker, but most particularly I want to thank Vice President Nelms, who was there at the inception of this wonderful Hall of Fame, and it's part of that legacy we talk about. So thank you for being there with a new idea and a way to celebrate CPS pride and excellence. So, Mrs. Hoffman?
Yeah, this is such exciting stuff. I think my board is going to get sick of me saying the same thing, but I think if we do want to change the conversation about who we are at CPS and all we do, this is the kind of stuff we should be tweeting and Facebooking and getting out there in social media, because this is really exciting stuff. So I'm going to put that out there. And then my one question for you is, I know girls have not been participating as long as boys, so that might be why there's such a discrepancy,
Right.
but it looked like there was only 1 female being inducted.
We inducted 3 last year.
Okay.
So it's a matter of catch up, and the girls are about 40 years behind the
Right.
boys in terms of when they were able to actually participate. We have a woman who was like a national championship golfer from Withrow, but golf wasn't a state sanctioned sport, so she won most of her championships on, in tournaments she entered on the outside. So we have got several women in.
Okay.
But the number of women, and what we've been actually trying to do is go back into that earlier period so we can get some of these folks before they pass away. And, but yes, we have a lot of, I won't say a lot, we have a number of female nominees and selections. But again, this is, this not only brings pride to the district, but this is something that it's relatively easy to do. It's not really expensive. And when you come to and Mrs. Ronan has been to these banquets, and almost to a person, No, I wasn't going to be negative. No, but I'm asking you to back me up on this. When these folks come, I mean, Tony Traber, one of the best male tennis players of all time, you know, Grand Slam championships, ran the US Open for a number of years. He came back to our first, 85 years old. I mean, he could barely get around, you know, took a plane, and guess who presented him his award? His 92-year-old tennis coach, Dean Giacometti. And almost to the man, these guys, and as pointed to Mrs. Ronan, you know, Kennard Johnson drove with an infant from South Dakota to get to the banquet last year, and then spoke about his experiences and what it meant to him. So, I mean, this is, like you say, it's an investment in something that makes everybody look good.
Yeah, you gotta get these stories out there.
That's right.
Well, I can always use an assistant if you're offering.
Should we mention that you're going to have the dinner and the Hall of Fame? Could you give the date? And
April 17th, it's a Thursday night. It'll be at Paul Brown Stadium. We're going back to Paul Brown Stadium, the East Concourse, because we can have a social hour with alcoholic beverages. And it's a better place. We tried for 2 years at Withrow. We couldn't get the sound system right.
That's right.
It was a struggle. But it'll be at Paul Brown Stadium, April 17th. Social hour at 5, dinner at 6. Award program. John Popovich and Lincoln Ware will be the MCs again. It's a really great night, and I know in this business you have to take your victories when you get them. But whenever I walk out of that thing with a program with all that information and the families and the kids and everything else, you just think, this is why I'm doing this. You know, I mean, it's a silly thing to say, but that's how I feel. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Any other comments, questions? And appreciate all your work that you do, and it is a great event, and it is very celebratory, and hopefully the board will be able to attend and see it and be full of CPS pride. And indeed, it gets a lot of coverage from a standpoint. You have Popo, you have John, as you mentioned, John Popovich, and also Lincoln Ware. So between the two of them, those are pretty good big names in broadcasting. So thank you so much.
Well, I do hope you guys got a chance to watch that little report from John Popovich last week about Des Scruggs over at Hughes, the blind kid. That was a tremendous, I mean, this, you know,
It's on our website.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but if you haven't seen that, make sure you do. That's again what it's all about.
That's right.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And now we also have for our next presentation, one by our Deputy Superintendent, and this is the presentation that had to be delayed because of the snow day, I guess, on last Wednesday, but I know the board did not want to wait to hear it and is interested in what she has to say regarding the academic reset.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is like perfect timing in terms of the order of the presentation because I'm actually going to talk about a sports theme, Mr. Durker.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you may have noticed at your seats you have a water bottle that says turn it up and also a VIP pass to the tailgate party.
Thank you.
So I know that I am a week late with a tailgate party for football. But when we decided to roll out our reset for our principals, we came up with a theme. We felt that it was really important to make it fun and exciting and to bring some life back to the work that we do because it should be fun every single day. And so we set our reset for December, which is an opportunity to look at the first 90 days of the school year, make some strategic decisions about what we're going to do moving forward, and then launch another 90-day plan. And so the leadership team was instrumental in setting the entire focus. I believe that Yanetta came up with the idea of Turn It Up and the music to go along with it. We had Jen and Pat Neal Miller who helped with some decorating, as well as Cynthia. We had a halftime show that was sponsored by Gabe and Bill. Yanetta and Gabe also got some music in terms of band from Withrow and also some cheerleaders. So it was very, very exciting and full of life, which is what we need to have for our principals because they're on the front lines every single day. So when we ended our tailgate, many of the principals said it felt like a homecoming. And that's what the district should feel like. It should feel like a homecoming. So turn it up. This is our theme to really revving up the work for the second half of the school year. So when we do our work, we try to make sure that we're using the best research that's out there. There's a book that you may be familiar with, and it is called The First 90 Days, and it's out of Harvard Press. And it basically says that the President of the United States, he gets he gets 100 days to set the foundation for his agenda for the upcoming term. And if he doesn't do it within the first 100 days, then it's more than likely his initiatives will fail. So this book says that we, as leaders, we have 90 days to set our agenda, to be able to diagnose situations, discover opportunities, identify challenges, really important to secure early wins in the work, to build effective teams that drive for results, and to sharpen our leadership focus, strategy, and innovation. So we were able to swipe a copy of Marvin Lewis's playbook, and this isn't his playbook, but Janet was able to get a copy for us, and we created our own playbook with our theme being around football. So we have a playbook for our principals, for our teachers, and as well as for our instructional focus, our instructional coaches around our 90-day plan and turning it up. So in December, we talked about hard work. So we had some fun, but we also did get down to the meat of hard work in this venture that we're going through, as well as the actual playbook itself. So we talked about the principal as quarterback. And keeping in mind that the reset was for our principals, the principal as the quarterback, his or her job is to lead the team, to set the direction, to call the plays, to ensure that every single player on the field knows his or her position and plays it with perfect execution. It's also extremely important for the quarterback to be able to feel in his heart or in his gut what is the right thing to do, and then to be able to move forward. So in thinking about a 90-day plan, we have to be prepared. And so a major part of our work is around data analysis. In terms of data analysis, we talked with our principals about the importance of being able to break the data down by school, by grade level, by subject, by teacher, by student, by skill. It's important for us to identify for every single child what are their strengths and what are their areas for improvement, and how can we capitalize not only on those things that they need to improve upon, but also capitalize on their strengths. So we talked about, quite honestly, when we looked at the report card that we received for the last school year, there were a lot of indicators that were very unfamiliar to us, especially since it was the first year for the report card. So we decided to try to be strategic and to really set a focus for this year of working on the AMOs, which all schools can show improvement on, and value added. Again, remembering the first 90 days talks about you have to have some early wins and successes in order to be able to sustain the hard work. So one of our plays is around data meetings. And so our principals are engaging in data conversations in the schools based upon our benchmark assessments, based upon our short cycle assessments, and teachers and principals are analyzing that data and then making conscious, instructional, intentional decisions about what should happen next for each child, an individual plan for each child. So this is an agenda that talks about just a framework and talks about how do you set targets for your students and teachers? How do you know what their actual needs are? Every month, focusing on the AMOs, as well as looking at the critical services that need to be in place and materials that need to be there in order to help our kids meet with academic success. And so we created target sheets for our schools so that they would know what's the target because for each school, for each subject area, each grade level. If you don't know what the target is or what you're aiming for, then you can shoot in the dark and end up anywhere. And so we are very thoughtful in terms of making sure that we're familiar with what the targets are and where we're going. So we have them for elementary schools as well as for high schools. We also developed some AMO, and I've been saying AMOs, and I apologize, annual measurable objective charts, to be able to chart where our students performed last year compared to how they're performing on each benchmark assessment throughout the school year. And we have one for math as well as for English language arts. Here's just an example in a data room in one of our schools where you can see the pocket charts that we use to be able to track every single student, but more importantly, for us to be able to identify what we're going to put in place, services as well as instruction to help our students meet with academic success. You also see an example of an AMO chart where the schools start to fill out where they are. Now, in this particular example, you're seeing some red, and that's valuable information. It isn't what we'd like to see, but it gives us good information so that we know what to do in terms of planning the instruction for our students moving forward. So we use all of our assessments and this data to be able to really plan instruction. It's also extremely important for us to know where our students count. So in terms of our students, many of our students, they fit into many different subgroups. And so each child is attached to several different subgroups. And so it's important for us to be able to track that information. So for all of our students, we're able to track and understand which subgroups they fit into and how they're performing within that subgroup. Because that subgroup information leads to their targets and the AMO targets that are set for each school. And then at the tested grade levels, we quite honestly look and we identify for each subject and each grade level where our students are performing against that particular content area. And we group our students. We show it in red, yellow, and green. And I know that sometimes people don't like to see the red, but it's a cue to us that we need to put some intensive support in place for those students. So you'll see that we list the students, but then across the top, we're identifying what are all the services those students are receiving. And we expect to see more services for those students who are currently in the yellow and then the red. This is just another way to present the exact same information. So, in speaking about overcoming some challenges, and we've had a lot this year, we really made a dramatic shift in our instructional focus, and we actually made that shift in January. So a big part of the 90-day plan, quite honestly, is not being afraid to take some risks, to do some mid-course correction, and change in the middle of a task or an action that you're taking. So when we think about overcoming some challenges, quite honestly, when we received the results back from our third grade October assessment, we felt like we had been punched in the eye. We typically perform better on that assessment than we did this year. This year we have 51% of our students proficient in October, and typically we're higher than that. Last year we were about 57.9% proficient. And quite honestly, it was a wake-up call for us. And so we had a conversation with ODE, and we really wanted to understand how this assessment is different, and is this an indication of an impact that we're going to see on the other assessments? And our question was answered by, we'll expect to see the same type of changes in our other assessments. We actually welcome this idea because it gives us an opportunity to adjust our instruction to be more rigorous so that our kids meet with academic success. And so we looked at the dually aligned assessment items that will be covered on the test that will be given in the spring, as well as the OGT in March. Again, and this just shows how those assessments will play out in terms of how we're looking at our assessments internally to make sure they are as rigorous as the assessments our kids will encounter. So in thinking about that third grade assessment, it was kind of like a crisis to us. And so in keeping with thinking about research, one of the books that a group of us were reading is called Catching Up or Leading the Way. And the book talks about how you capitalize on a crisis and always find something good out of it. And so it talks about the launch of Sputnik and how at the time Senator Kennedy actually used that to relaunch his reelection for the Senate, and also he used that crisis as a bid for his presidency, which worked. And so we're learning how, quite honestly, to turn a crisis in terms of our assessment results in October into a win and a plus for all of us. Oh, let me go back one slide. So, considering this crisis that we encountered in terms of our kids not really being as prepared as we thought, we didn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and we didn't want to scrap the entire pacing for the entire district. And so what we decided to do was to pull some teachers together, and they identified that if we developed mini lessons that could support the duly aligned items, our teachers could continue with the current pacing, but each day for a 30 or 20-minute block of time, depending on the subject area, we would interject this mini lesson that would help our students and our teachers be able to understand what those more rigorous content questions would look like on the assessments. And so our coaching team developed mini lessons at grades 3 through 8 in math and reading, and those mini lessons are administered on a daily basis. And then on Fridays, we give a short cycle assessment, 4 to 5 questions to assess whether or not the kids mastered that information, and then we go back and reteach where it's needed or provide enrichment where it's needed. Because we aren't putting this information to dashboard, so we created a tool, an assessment tracker, so that on a daily basis, teachers would be able to track their students' progress and be able to, in just in time, coaching, be able to adjust the instruction to meet the needs of the kids. So we aren't waiting for 2 weeks or a month to go by. And then there's also a child version of this assessment tracker. So kids can see how they performed against each assessment, and they can set some goals in terms of what they want to do to move forward. So our principals are encouraging and working with our teachers, as they have in the past, to develop individual plans for each child so that we know which child needs reteaching, practice, and enrichment based upon the assessment that was just given, based upon the mini lessons that were taught. So we're going to keep our head down, meaning keep it focused, not bury it in the sand, but keep intentional focus on the work that we do to make sure that everything that we do is calculated and there's a strategy that we believe that will lead to student success. We recognize as we're keeping our head down and we're keeping our focus that some of our teachers need professional development, especially our 7th and 8th grade teachers who were forming new teams in the high schools that just received 7th and 8th grade this year or last year. And so we put together some professional development on the data analysis piece, on the mini lessons, and our coaches are doing some in-school job-embedded professional development to help and support our teachers as they go through this. To interject mini lessons in January can apply a lot of pressure. And quite honestly, we believe that pressure is okay as long as we provide the support that needs to go along with it. And so our coaches are in the building supporting our teachers and our principals as they implement this work. Now, I don't know a lot about football, but I hear there's something called special teams. And so we put some special teams in place. And our special teams concept really goes hand in hand with what Dara talked about a little earlier when she talked about the power of tutoring. There's a lot of research that talks about the impact, positive impact an adult can have on a child in a one-on-one situation or a small group situation if the skills that the child is being taught or has the remediation around is directly linked to a particular weakness, and if there's training for that tutor. And so at the 7th and 8th grade level, we're putting in some special team of tutors who will be working with our students around the mini lessons for math and English language arts, and they're going to hone in on the very specific individual skills that each child needs. So it's not blanket math tutoring or blanket reading tutoring. It's very specific by child. So with these special teams, we're putting in 4 tutors, and they're only working with 7th and 8th grade. reading and mathematics for the identified schools who just received 7th and 8th grade this year or last year, and those tutors will be working 4 days a week, 7 hours a day. The tutoring is supplemental, so it will not pull students out of the core academic content subject areas. So we couldn't leave graduation out, and so we have some ideas around graduation. We've been working with Dr. Lofton and thinking about how do we make sure that our students are ready for graduation. And quite honestly, to have this conversation around graduation is really short-sighted, and we recognize that we're really talking about not how do we get our kids just to graduate, but how do we get them really prepared for college and a career so that when they go to college, they aren't having to enroll in remedial courses, or the supervisor doesn't have complaints about our students once they come into the job or workforce. And so we're working with our schools in terms of making sure that our kids are ready for graduation as well. So we're using things like Naviance and college visits and job shadowing, not losing sight of the importance of dual enrollment in AP courses and elective courses. And we're putting specific plans in place for those students who are not on track to graduate. So all this is bundled up into a 90-day plan, which again, it goes back to the book, The First 90 Days. And so principals identify a problem of practice, 4 to 5 problems of practice. They have to identify what's the data that supports that's a problem, and then what project will I put in place to solve that problem, what's the professional development that's needed, as well as a communication plan to support all of these things. And we monitor the implementation and we adjust. We have to be clever. And in being clever, it's important for us to make sure that we coordinate our resources. And so again, we use another piece of research. This is the book called The Strategic School, and it's making the most out of people, time, and money. And in January is a time that when we do our reset, quite honestly, we aren't afraid to shift some of our resources, to reallocate resources. We believe firmly in an equity model, which says I give more to where more is needed. And so if I see a group that's doing particularly well, I may need to shift my resources in another place. I may need to change the time of day that a particular subject area is taught. I may need to even change the teacher who is teaching a particular content area. In keeping in tune with asking our schools to reallocate their resources, we also reallocate here at central office. And so we looked at how our coaches are doing their work, and we retooled them to make sure that they were in the schools really focusing on the implementation of the mini lessons. And so this just shows you what the elementary coach, what their work looks like during their reset, and then the high school reset, what the coaches are focused on. And quite honestly, we've shifted our focus for the high school for our coaches to really primarily focus on 7th and 8th grade. We know we need to put a lot more support and effort into making sure those kids are successful. So it wouldn't be a tailgate party or a presentation without a call to action. And so we identified a call to action in terms of principals using the tools that we provided, them really knowing their data, knowing their students by every single child, knowing what their targets are, putting together a strong tutoring plan, as well as building a 90-day plan for the next 90 days. So this would be the equivalent of our Super Bowl. Like I said, I know I'm a week late, but I wasn't late when we launched this in December. This is our Super Bowl. And a Super Bowl is not about just the best team or the best concept or the best strategy or the best performance in isolation. Because Denver, they had good concepts, they had good strategies all season, but where they failed was on their performance, on knowing when to strike. Hard work, overcoming obstacles, being clever, being prepared. Those are all hallmarks of anyone or any group that's striving to be better, to be great. We've had a lot of challenges this year. We've had snow days, we've had delays, we've had report card ratings that we weren't happy with. But we know that now is the time for us to be relentless. We have to be like a dog on a bone and not give up. Despite the obstacles, we will quietly go about our work and we will strike. And it wouldn't be the Super Bowl without a Super Bowl commercial.
Where'd it go?
The world is full of giants. We have always been here, lumbering in the schoolyards, limping through the alleys. We had to learn how to deal with them, how to overcome them. We were small, but fast. Remember? We were like a wind appearing out of nowhere. We knew that being clever was more important than being the biggest kid in the neighborhood. As long as we keep our heads down, as long as we work hard, trust what we feel in our guts, our hearts, then we're ready. We wait until they get sleepy, wait until they get so big they can barely move. Then we walk out of the shadows, quietly walk out of the dark, and strike.
So we will work hard, we will be clever, we will overcome obstacles, we will trust in our heart and our gut what is the right thing to do for our kids, and we will be prepared.
Thank you. I know.
First of all, in keeping with the theme, let me give you a high five. That was quite ingenious, and I want to compliment her. But let me say this, one of the things that struck me was the fact that you was honest about the challenges, and you didn't just come up and give the fluff. You talked about the challenges, and sometimes I think as board members, we need to hear that. And we need to constantly be reminded that there is a reality to what you do. Also, I'd have to say the template that you use, overcoming challenges, and was an excellent template. And again, I want a PowerPoint, but all I have to say, Laura, thank you for that model. It's something I think that we can use and modify throughout the district. And Phyllis, don't forget to get a copy.
I think it's on SharePoint. I didn't make hard copies for you because it is on SharePoint, but if you like a hard copy, you can have a copy.
Okay, I'm hard copy. I had to come up a notch.
Thank you. Who has some other questions or comments for the Deputy Superintendent?
Laura, at the beginning of your presentation, you talked about 51% of the students, or 51% proficient scored in October, which was a drop from the previous year. What do you attribute it to?
Yeah, so we called the state and we had a conversation with ODE. And we talked with them and said, help us understand what happened on this assessment, because it wasn't just Cincinnati Public. Many of the surrounding districts took a double-digit drop. All the other urban districts dropped as well. And in our conversation with the person from the assessment department, we were told that, quite honestly, over the last several years, the reading scores at third grade have been improving too greatly. And so they deliberately chose items that districts hadn't performed well on in the past, and that's what they built their assessment on. Again, it wasn't something we're happy about, but it's a good wake-up call for us because, like I said, typically we do pretty well. And so when we had schools who weren't doing well, who usually do well, it was a wake-up call and say, okay, we need to up our game and understand not only what this assessment is asking our kids to do, but to make sure that our kids can read with fluency and to be able to comprehend what they're reading.
Yeah. I appreciate the presentation. I think it has a phenomenal theme. I am a football mom, and just so you know, I was the only person in the household who rooted for the Seattle team, who were the underdogs, who absolutely won the Super Bowl. I'm with you.
Mrs. Hoffman?
I wanted to thank you too. I want to echo Chris and say thank you for telling us what your challenges are. That helps us know what is really happening in the district when you tell us that. And I also wanted to thank you for when you said you're encouraging your principals to take risks. I think that is fantastic when we entrust our leaders to be leaders and take the risks and follow their gut, like you had said. So I wanted to thank you there. And I have a quick question. The data cards on all of the kids and all the tracking that you're doing to make sure that you know where every kid is at all times. As a former classroom teacher, I'm loving that. That would have been amazing had I had that in my own classroom. And when the kids, we have a lot of mobility in some of our classrooms. When kids transfer to other schools in CPS, do those data cards go with them, or what data goes with them so their new teacher knows right where they were?
Yeah, so we typically don't transfer the physical data cards, but actually all the information that we put on the data cards it's stored in dashboard. And so when a child moves from one school to another, then that child will automatically pop up into the new teacher's class list, and he'll be able to see all of that data there. But we do make sure that we track it even for our kids who are coming into a new school or coming new into the district.
And it's there within 24 hours. It's the very next day.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for your presentation. And thanks for all your work and everyone else's work on this. And now we have another presentation and this is going to be led by a board member, Melanie Bates, who has some information and a show and tell as well.
Tiffany box.
All right.
It is.
Where Tiffany at?
Where Tiffany? Alex, what are we going to do?
Just pray for me. That's all you can do.
Now, I was invited on behalf of the board to attend the 3rd annual Summit of Improving School Outcomes by Preventing LGBT Bullying. And this was a summit that was sponsored by the Cintas Center, Children's Hospital, GLSEN, the Health Path, Human Rights Campaign, and Tri-Health. And they wanted to award us this honor for our revision of our bullying policy to include enumeration. And it wasn't just for the outgoing board, they did name everybody on the outgoing board, but also for the current board, because of course we're going to be responsible for its implementation. And this is in addition to the one that we're picking up next month at the Human Relations Commission. So this is kind of a big deal. I learned that there's evidence, research to suggest that when there are enumeration policies, that bullying actually decreases, and we're, again, leaders in the country for moving forward with this enumeration. So I wanted to show you what we all have that's going in our office. How many awards do we get? I mean, this is pretty cool. We never get awards. But we have received this beautiful Tiffany apple that says CPS Board of Education Recognition for Promoting Safe School Environments for LGBT Students 2014. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I should make note, too, that very frankly, the former board, having accomplished this, it's gorgeous, having accomplished this, we must point out Mrs. Bates's tenacity and insistence on us pursuing this, even though she wasn't on the policy committee at the time, made sure that policy members, and particularly our policy committee chair, Mrs. White. Between the two of them, really moved the board in this very important area. So thank you for your leadership on that, Mrs. Bates. And yeah, it's pretty cool to get an award.
We'll give it to Phyllis to find a place of honor in our office. How's that?
And now Mrs. Walsh comes down and we get some presents.
Can I just ask a question for the student
Sure.
achievement committee? So on these same lines, like this is fantastic that we have declared what we believe for our district, but like Melanie just said, the key is the implementation. And if we look at the stats on bullying, 80% of African-American kids who are gay report having been bullied at some point, and we know the majority of our kids in CPS are African-American, and that directly bullying affects graduation rates. I'm wondering if on Student Achievement Committee, we can talk about bullying, how to be more transparent about bullying happening in our district, how we can react to it, making it easier to report bullying, all those things that we know are happening and we want to make sure that we're on top of.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something we could take care of probably through the Discipline Committee, which is a subset of the Student Achievement Committee. But, we can certainly put that on the next agenda.
And they meet next Tuesday at 4. Is that right, Mr. Miles? Yes.
I would also remind the administration that I think still on the agenda or still on the to-do list from the previous policy committee is some sort of report out regarding bullying incidents in our district. And we have waited for a while for that and would expect to see that soon. The new board members and policy committee need to see that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. The star of tonight, besides the deputy superintendent, is Mrs. Walsh, who gets to be up there yet again.
By no means. You all are the stars. And to prove it, tonight is Board Appreciation Night in Cincinnati Public Schools. Actually, we were due, as tradition goes, to celebrate it last month, but given all the snow, cold, terrible weathers, 2-hour delays, there's one again tomorrow, and closures, we got delayed a little bit. But it's never too late to say thank you. And we want to thank you for all of your dedication and hard work to the students of Cincinnati Public Schools. We know that these meetings only are the tip of the iceberg for the time that you put in, studying for having additional meetings, answering all those emails, meeting with constituents, learning the budget process. It goes on and on. It can be more than 20 hours a week, and the pace you all are setting so far this year, it could be well beyond that. So in appreciation for all that you do for Cincinnati Public Schools, some of our students have made gifts for you. They don't arrive in a Tiffany box. They are at your tables in a little cloth bag like this, which you can now open. And these are courtesy students from Pleasant Ridge Montessori. They're beaded, handmade.
They're beautiful.
And very nice, I think. Art teacher at the school, Rebecca McKay, led this project, and she also sent a card, a fan back there, and it reads, card. Dear school board members, thank you for everything you do to make CPS a great place to learn. The students at PRM Pleasant Ridge Montessori. So thank you, board members, and enjoy your gifts.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the teacher and the students. Pleasant Ridge Montessori, that's great. Mr. Nelms, do you have any additional kudos? Although tonight's been full of kudos, frankly.
Pretty much so, but I would like to start by saying that tonight, may every decision that we make benefit the students, the parents, our partners, and the communities that we were all elected to serve. And I do have a kudo and a sharing of a kudo. And my first kudo is regarding playwright and director Robert O'Hara for writing and directing the play, The Etiquette of Vigilance. Mr. O'Hara's reading of the play was featured at the Playhouse in the Park, and Mr. O'Hara is a former Walnut Hills School graduate. So kudos to you, Mr. O'Hara, for your writing of a play.
Thank you. Any other kudos? Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Kudos to the Cincinnati Arts and Technology Center, CATC, for reaching over 3,000 children as they enter into 11 years of service of helping at-risk CPS students graduate and prosper. Through the CATC's initiative, The Hero's Journey, students learned how to become heroes of their own lives. They did this by interpreting their personal journeys through various works of art, sculpture, glass, drawings, paintings, and ceramics. CATC is a credit recovery program that uses the arts to help mostly at-risk CPS students complete their education, stay in school, graduate, and become self-sufficient adults. So kudos to Cincinnati Arts and Technology Center.
Thank you. Any other kudos?
That's it.
Is that it? Thank you very much. Mrs. Bates, do you have any retirements to announce?
One retirement, civil service staff persons, Sandra Patterson is retiring, and we want to wish her well and thank her for all of her service.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. We're now on the item of our agenda for hearing the public. You've all been very patient, and we have a number of people that would like to speak, particularly a large representation from Gamble, Montessori. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak, and Mrs. Witt will be our timekeeper. When the buzzer goes off, your 3 minutes are up. Please refrain from discussing any kind of personnel items. And also, if you're on the same topic, try not to kind of duplicate what each other is saying. We have Diane Williams, come on down, and Alex Shepard, and Mary Dwyer, and Maddie Miller from Gamble, Montessori. We have parent and the student reps. Thank you. And after they speak, we will have President Julie Sellers speak. Is that right, Julie?
Board members, staff, students, parents, and fellow guests. Hello, my name is Alex Shepard, and I have been a student at Gamble Montessori for about 3 years now. I have also been part of the United Nations Youth Council for about 4 years. I hope that in this meeting and in this discussion, we can see eye to eye. I will be able to express my views and discuss the pros and cons of our educational environment at Gamble Montessori. Education is a driver of social, economic, and political progress. As people learn to read, count, and reason critically, their prospects for health and prosperity expand. But our advances in education have not benefited everyone equally, and it's times that things have changed. As wonderful as Gamble Montessori is to me and many of my colleagues from the past and the present, believe that the following are some concerns in our educational environment area. Number one is the shortage of classroom and space. The poorest countries in the world need about 4 million new classrooms by the year 2015. However, Gamble Montessori has classrooms that are completed in one way and some ways and not the other. When we were moved into our Westwood home, before it came to my knowledge from students and some of the staff that we would have classrooms that were up to date. I have seen in the past few weeks classrooms of great size that can be used for multiple different purposes that are incomplete. They have unfinished scaffolding and different materials left all over. More classrooms will alleviate overcrowding, cut class size, and reduce long travel distances in the hallway. But to do this, classrooms need refurbishing or upgrading to acceptable standards for our students. 2, in the summer of 2013, before Gamble Montessori opened, I went there to get an idea of the surrounding areas of what students and staff would be dealing with when we moved there in August. As I pulled into the parking lot, the first thing that I noticed was the landscape. It was uneven and quite appalling to the eye, but being that it had rained the night before made the terrain wet, muddy, and quite messy. The small driveway poses a risk to students and staff trying to walk by. It is small, narrow, and always muddy. If a car comes, students must clear out of the way, and so must other vehicles. Today, with modern technology, most students do not pay attention to their surrounding and put themselves in danger. Should an oncoming car come too fast and cannot stop in time, it can be considered a dangerous threat to our students who attend our school. By expanding the narrow driveways, we can reduce the risk of our children being injured.
You have just a little bit more to say?
Yeah. In conclusion, I believe that Gamble lives up to its core values of community, hard work, learning, peace, and respect. I see it every day in the staff, I see it in the students, and I see it here this evening in the parents and students who are with us. We not only support our school. So I thank you, the board, the staff, the parents and students who are here tonight, and on behalf of Gamble Montessori and the United Nations Youth Council, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
United Nations Youth Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And happy February to all of the board members. We're grateful to have the opportunity, the privilege even, to speak with you again. And by now you are in receipt of our February letter to the board. And we've returned again with other Gamble Montessori parents and students, respectfully, to make another appeal regarding our list of concerns. We do want to thank the board for your immediate attention to the building heat issue. We are so grateful to report that students are feeling warmer each day. However, a student reported that they were told the heat is turned off in the school building on the weekends, which makes their return to the building from the weekend a bit chilly. We're in remembrance this evening of the board's mission, vision, and strategic goals. And you do state in your vision that you're dedicated to preparing every student for excellence in life. And we would like the Gamble Montessori High School environment to reflect this excellence, to help prepare Gamble students for excellence in their lives. An excellent environment encourages the students and the parents. And we had a parent express at the parent meeting recently that she was embarrassed to bring the student's grandmother to our school because of how it looks. This shouldn't be. Your mission indicates that you want to make decisions to serve the needs of our students, the people who serve our students, and our community. And we believe the items we've listed would certainly serve the students, serve the teachers, our school, and our surrounding community. One of your strategic goals states your desire to improve and sustain a child-centered, safe school district focused on schools as the center of a safe community. So broken brickwork and broken tiles in the auditorium, concrete and asphalt repairs, this traffic flow we keep sharing with you, there's safety issues, along with mold developing in the music room that we've seen recently. And we forwarded photos of other unaddressed building maintenance issues, deterioration issues, and they need immediate attention so that we can make sure that our children are safe. We're just confident that there must be components in the CPS budget for correcting building issues to make our children safe. Our invitation is still open to have the board to come and tour our school and our campus and to measure all the concerns that we're presenting to you. Our children deserve a bright, stimulating, motivating environment, and we're asking again for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Appreciate it.
Ms. Williams, I do have a question. What's the start and end time for Gamble?
I'm sorry?
What time does Gamble open as a school? What's the time frame for?
8:45.
8:45. Okay. I live right across the street. I walk through that driveway when I take my walk around that area.
So you're familiar with that?
Familiar.
That flow?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Our next two speakers, we have Mary Dwyer and Maddie Miller.
Hello, my name is Madeline Miller, and I'm here with my friend and classmate, Mary Dwyer. We highly appreciate you allowing us to have this opportunity to speak. As everyone probably already knows, a Montessori school is a place where we as one community. So the problems we will be addressing apply to all the students attending Gamble. Our supplies are limited and our textbooks are beaten up and very used. Our building also has a lot of mold growing throughout the whole entire building. It seems like Gamble is a little neglected compared to other schools. For example, Dater Montessori was just recently remodeled like a few years ago, and Clark Montessori is being rebuilt from scratch, and Walnut Hills High School is currently being built onto.
Okay, sorry, one thing she forgot to mention was that the water in the building is always extremely cold, so when we have to wash our hands and things like that, my hands are literally cold for like 10 minutes afterwards. Yeah, sorry, she forgot to mention that. Okay, so what we are trying to say is that Gamble Montessori is an amazing school, and we come across as less because of the condition our building is in. If we have ratings as good as Walnut and other schools, we should be treated as such and also look as great as we really are. And that's all we have to say.
Well, thank you very much. This is, appreciate you being here, and again, apologize for the unusually long wait to speak, but it was worth listening to you, and appreciate your
That's okay.
participation. Okay. Thank you. We are now going to hear from President Julie Sellers. Speaking of cold.
Yeah, we get a draft somewhere, but I didn't wear my long johns, Ralph. You feel it? You feel that? My wool socks. Look at Melanie. Let's get her.
I know. This happened last week about this time.
Yeah, and I had it put back there.
Good evening, members of the board. What I would like to do is just address with the board that there's a very inconsistent communication plan around the use of the 2-hour delays. On January 22nd, the staff was given a memo from central office, and it was signed by Mary Ronan. And there was 2 plans. There was Plan A and Plan B. Plan A was for cold weather, and it was for the yellow bus delay. And the staff was to report at the regular starting time. But then there was Plan B, which is a snow 2-hour delay, where staff and students were to report within a 2-hour window. And for the 25 years I've been in the district, whenever there was a 2-hour snow delay, you would have a snow plan with a snow team who would be able to get there early, and so that employees are not at risk for getting to work, or if they have to dig their car out. Everybody doesn't have a garage. Some people have to dig their cars out from the street after they've been plowed in overnight. So it makes it difficult for some employees to be there at 7:15 a.m. So this document did go out, but then the staffs are told that they have to be there, all staff has to be there at the regular time, and they would, some of them were threatened that they would be docked time. Some of them were told that there isn't any other, options for them. But then what is sent home to the parents and what was online were 2 different documents that weren't changed until after the policy was changed. So it's not always consistent what is online and what is told or what is implemented. And all I'm asking for is, when they have a 2-hour delay, if it's a snow day, then it's Plan B. If it's a cold day, it's Plan A. So that way, teachers know what the expectation is. it wouldn't have been a problem if this wasn't sent out and we would have had, one consistent message. So I can't get a question, an answer. I say, is it Plan A or Plan B? Every time there's a 2-hour delay. So tomorrow, is it Plan A or is it Plan B?
I can answer that. We will be on a 2-hour yellow bus delay tomorrow morning because they anticipate the temperature to be around 0 with below 0 wind chills. That impacts the 6,000 children who have to walk to school a mile, and then there's another 10,000 who have to wait at buses. But our staff, I don't think any of our staff take a bus. Most of our staff have a car. They're able to drive in a warm car. So we expect the staff to be at school at the regular time. Because even though we do a 2-hour bus delay, a lot of our youngsters walk to school. They get there an hour early. We have to have adults in the building to unlock the building and let the children in the building. And I think our parents expect that adults will be in the building whenever they arrive. And Mrs. Sellers is correct. At the beginning of the year, when we sent home a document that had been on our website for a while that actually said children should not report to school before that 2 hours is up. But of course, a lot of children do arrive before the 2 hours are up. In fact, I have reports of a school turning children away because they arrived before the 2 hours are up. So of course, we immediately took that off the website. We immediately sent correspondence home to parents because we know parents have to get to work on time. If you're a nurse, you can't say, I'm on a 2-hour delay if you work in the emergency room. So we know that parents have to drop their children off at school, and children may arrive before the 2 hours are up. So our schools are opened. Our staff needs to be there. And we definitely changed that communication. But Mrs. Sellers is correct. In August, something was sent home that we immediately corrected after the first 2 hours delay, telling parents we welcome your children into the building. If they come 2 hours early, that is fine. You will be safe. You will be secure. There'll be adults in the building. Breakfast will be served, etc.
And that is for Plan A, and everybody understands that. What I'm talking about is the Plan B, and there would be, I'm not saying that there won't be staff there, and that every school should develop a plan for that.
Right now, we haven't had a Plan B. They've all been Plan A's.
But some of them have been off not because of cold. Last week, there were days where it was because of the snow and the ice, and people can't get to school. They can't get out of their streets. I mean, the city has not done a good job with plowing. If the day that there was a yellow bus delay, there was one lane going up Vine Street and the city streets were not clear. To me, that is a snow day and it should have been Plan B. So if there's going to be a Plan A and a Plan B, that needs to be communicated. Otherwise, this is incorrect information that went to staff members, and it's causing a lot of communication within the district. It's causing communication for families, staff, everyone in the district. And all that we need is to have, we can't have this go out one day and then this go out the next day, and they're not aligned. So whatever it is, and I'm not saying that there should not be staff there to greet students, but when there is snow and the streets are dangerous, you have to have a leeway, just like this is, within the 2 hours, because some people, they do have to dig their cars out when the plows have come by overnight. And some of the days that we've had off have been snow days, and it makes it dangerous for the staff also. All I'm saying is that there has to be a clear communication plan, and I do agree that those parents who work, who drive their kids to school, they should be able to be there when the school opens. That has never been a problem for the 25 years I've been in the district. But now all of a sudden this year, it seems like it's becoming a problem, and it's just causing a lot of confusion. And every day that there's a 2-hour delay, I send a text, is it a Plan A? Is it Plan B? I have never gotten Why do we have Plan A, Plan B, and we don't use Plan A, Plan B?
Julie, because it's very hard to put Plan A or Plan B on the ticker tape because it confuses parents. So I will certainly recommend that we eliminate the Plan A and Plan B. It should say on the ticker, staff reports late or staff reports on time. So unless it says staff reports late, staff needs to be in their building, because an A and a B generates hundreds upon hundreds of parent calls saying, what's an A, what's a B? So we try to put yellow bus 2-hour delay / metro regular time. If staff didn't have to report, we would have put staff reports, staff and buses 2-hour delay, and we have not run that.
But if you had it cold weather 2-hour delay or snow 2-hour delay, everybody would know what the difference was. And I am not saying that for a snow 2-hour delay that staff wouldn't be there, but if staff cannot be there, they wouldn't be threatened about it. And it has come down to that in some schools.
We will certainly follow up with the principals because we always want our staff to be safe. So if someone is an hour late, we understand if your car was stuck in ice. So
or if you're on the expressway where there have been multiple car accidents and the highway shut down, and then teachers are trying to get there on time, and then they get there as soon as they can get there and they're reprimanded as soon as they walk in the door. I am not saying that students should not be supervised and there should not be anybody there. I know what it's like as a parent that you have to get your kids to school so you can get to work. And that, but we just need a clear communication.
If anyone's been docked, please let us know, because to my knowledge, we were not taking time off for a snow day like that.
But
if
it
somebody was
shouldn't be
tardy.
a threatening situation in buildings.
Well,
and that's what it's becoming in many buildings.
Then at our next principals meeting, we will certainly talk with the principals and explain to them that we certainly have to have leeway when the roads are slippery.
Okay, so you can call it a cold 2-hour delay or a snow 2-hour delay?
Well, I think since right now it's already running, tomorrow it will say yellow bus 2-hour delay / metro regular time, because it is a cold delay tomorrow morning. There is no snow forecast. It's just due to below zero wind chills. And I'm certainly, hopefully this is the end, but we can certainly get together and plan for next year if you'd like it worded differently. But I also noticed when we tried to add additional items to the ticker tape, you could get whiplash trying to read it because it moves so fast. So we only have a certain number of characters we can put up there. So we've been trying our best because this has been unusual. We have not done a 2-hour delay before for our yellow buses. This is the first year we've done it, but we felt we had to do something because of the cold weather for children. So this is new, and you're correct. In August, we did not anticipate this, so I'm sorry in August we didn't have the wording right, but we've worked very hard the last 4 weeks to try to get this organized and to try to make sure all the parents knew and to try to let staff know, yes, you have to come to school if it's just cold. And I do thank you for your cooperation because you have been very helpful.
I have really worked hard across the district to try to have the clear communication and for everyone, teachers and parents and families to understand the differences with all of these different plans and what they mean, and with the makeup day and how the makeup day is used. And I mean, it's been very, very confusing, and it isn't anyone's fault, but we really have to be clear that there is not a message that has double standard for what is expected for kids and what is expected for employees. And I'm not trying to say the employees don't want to be there, but things do happen in the morning when there is snow and ice on the streets, and all you have to do is look down. By Gamble, we had somebody go up there today and you can barely get down Felicity to get to the school because of the ice and the narrow. There was cars and buses and everything off. So it's not just getting to school, but then it's getting out of the car and getting into the parking lots.
Although I do have to commend our maintenance staff because we have hired private contractors to make sure that all of our parking lots have been cleared and the sidewalks. So we have worked diligently. But of course, the street leading up to the school is another issue, and we have to rely on the city. But what I can do is to get together with our treasurer to make sure that no teacher has been docked, because I don't believe that's been happening. But we'll make sure that it's not.
And even if they haven't, it's still not good to have it as a threat of hanging over somebody's
And we will follow up at the next principals meeting to say you have to give people leeway, understanding that there's safety issues on snowy days.
And I will also say the most of the principals have been reasonable about it in many of the schools. In many of the schools where the principals have been around, they understand how to do a snow plan for their building. But with 16 brand-new principals, and many of them who haven't been in the district long enough to even remember when we had a winter like this,
it's been a long time.
it makes it more difficult. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We now are at the point of resolutions, and I believe we have 3 resolutions tonight. I believe that one of them requires a 48-hour waiver, but we'll start with the first one, which is Mr. Nelms has agreed to intro. Did you just?
Yeah, it was so long.
So long ago.
There
you got it. Mr. Nelms will introduce the first resolution.
I have a resolution to request a waiver for alcohol use at Walnut Hills High School for a wedding event, and I present as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say that, I'm certainly not opposed to this, but it's setting a precedent, and we can't be selective about who we grant waivers to. So this opens up possibilities for other schools to move forward with this kind of activity. And if that's the direction the board wants to take, that's fine, but I do want to point that this is precedent-setting.
And it's, oh, go ahead, sir.
Ms. President Bolton, I would also like to add that I agree with Ms. Bates. I think it's a matter that it has nothing to do with this waiver today. I think that's the process that has been established. But going forward, I'd like to make sure that I at least let the board know where I stand with Ms. Bates, that it should be something that we should dialogue. I don't know if it should go to policy rather than public engagement, but.
We're doing it tonight.
Yeah, we're doing it
we're
tonight.
past that.
Yeah.
If we're setting the precedent, we're doing it.
And the precedent that you're talking about in terms is that prior to this particular request, the requests have been for fundraising or special events for the building as such, and this is the first of individual requests that we've received. And the nature of this particular individual request then starts to set not only the precedent of that it's not an institutional kind of thing, although indeed the Walnut Hills Foundation would benefit based upon the generosity of this particular couple, but the reality is that I don't know, in all the years, 1830-something of Cincinnati Public, I believe we've only done this 3 or so times, and it was about an opening of SCPA, and it was about another event of the opera using our stage or something. So this is a different step that we're taking, and if we take it in this case, how do you then say no to any other individual request? So.
Well, I think one of the things that we do have to keep in mind is that each request is different. And so I think moving forward, even though it may be a precedent, I think we need to take each recommendation or each request on the merits of its own request. And so it will be a decision I think that we need to make on a case-by-case basis, and we always attempt to be flexible when we can about any circumstance or any situation as it relates to policy. But I think moving forward, it may not be a problem, but we'll have to just deal with it as it comes up.
President Bolton, I want to be clear. I do think that as much as we've heard that this is a different case, I don't think so. I do think that it's coming from the Alumni Foundation, and it is an entity, not an individual, although it is clear that it will serve an individual and a couple. But I think the process that has been established in the previous waivers is being followed, and we can fault that. But I do think moving forward, we should consider where we stand and draw either a policy or a much better process or completely eliminate the possibility. But for this specific situation, going back to the resolution, I don't think my feeling on this specific one is that I don't think we can say no to it if this is the way we've done it in the past, even though it's only been a couple of times.
I think if I could say something there, I think the process has been followed, but it is another threshold that we are crossing. And so that's what we have to keep in mind. And the nature of it is if we're willing to do that, and everybody has to vote as they see fit, for sure, but it does represent a different threshold.
President Bolton,
Yes, please.
I agree that it does, open the door for several other entities to do similar requests. The thing for me is that it is requested by the Alumni Foundation. There are proceeds that will go towards the foundation to support the foundation. And then two, there are some very concrete things in the last paragraph of the resolution that talk about a licensure needing to be obtained, security and that. And so, for me, as long as those harsh, regulations are put there, I don't see any harm in it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay. We did have a second. Yes, we did. So, or we wouldn't have been out of the discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Abstain.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nell.
Aye.
President Bolton.
No. Next, we have a need for a 48-hour waiver. This is a resolution regarding the sale of property. We got this just recently, although we've been talking about this for almost a year or so. So I would appreciate it if someone would volunteer to introduce this resolution on behalf of the board. It's not been assigned.
Is this it?
The sale of property in Poplar.
Do we have to do a 48-hour waiver?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. A 48-hour waiver for the sale of property.
I move that we have a 48-hour waiver to consider the resolution for the sale of property on 940 Poplar Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Coons is seconded. Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman. Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nell.
Yes.
President Bolton.
Aye, thank you. And now to introduce the resolution, someone willing to do that for us? Okay, Mr. Manera.
Resolution to sell the following property, 940 Poplar Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45214. That's to be considered the property. Whereas the Board of Education of the Cincinnati City School District, the board, owns real property and facilities throughout the territory of Cincinnati School District. Whereas under the Facilities Master Plan, the board has replaced outdated facilities to provide structure for up-to-date and positive learning environments. Whereas the board is nearing the conclusion of the FMP, and many outdated facilities have been replaced by new or renovated school buildings. Accordingly, the board has unused facilities and properties that it desires to sell. Whereas pursuant to prior resolutions passed by the board on July 9, 2012, August 27, 2012, and September 5, 2012, and in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 3313.41 and ORC 3313.411, the board offered the properties for sale to the governing authorities of community schools located within the territory of Cincinnati City School District at the appraised fair market value as determined by the Hamilton County Auditor, at the time such offers were made to the community schools. Whereas no community school accepted the board's offer to purchase the properties, accordingly, the board proceeded to offer the properties for sale pursuant to an online auction which closed on November 8th, 2012. Public notice of the auction was given by publication in the legal advertising section of the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper on October 1st, 2012. Whereas as a result of the public notice and other media coverage and marketing efforts, there was active participation in the auction and the board received acceptable winning bids for a total of 13 of the 17 real estate properties offered for sale at the auction. 12 properties were board approved in November 9th, 2012 resolution. And whereas accordingly the board has determined that it is in the best interest of the district to transfer this property pursuant to terms of the auction and this resolution, and whereas the buyer, TWG Development, LLC, formerly known as the Whitsett Group, entered into a contract dated February 11th, 2013, and did not complete the sale. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby approves the sale of the following property pursuant to the terms of a purchase agreement and its resolution, 940 Poplar Street, for $150,000. Be it further resolved that the board president, treasurer, and treasurer are hereby authorized, directed, and empowered to take all actions necessary or appropriate to transfer this property to the successful bidder pursuant to the terms of the auction and this resolution at the applicable winning bid amount. And be it finally resolved that the board president and treasurer are hereby authorized, directed, and empowered in the name of and on behalf of the board to take all such further actions and to execute, deliver, and record in the name and behalf of the board any and all other instruments and documents as may be deemed by such president and treasurer necessary or appropriate to transfer this property to, with such changes and additions to any of the terms and provisions of any therefore, as the president and the treasurer executing the same shall approve the execution, filing, delivery, and recording as applicable thereof to be conclusive evidence of such approval.
Thank you.
Now in Spanish.
Now in Spanish. I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
Was there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the second? Discussion? I don't know that there.
I do have a question.
Yes, question.
I missed the discussion earlier in executive session, so I'm just curious, who are we actually selling the property to? Is it this TWG Development Group?
Yes, it's the same group that
old Whitsett
bid
group.
successfully at the auction. They are out of Indianapolis, and they plan to redevelop for housing. We're also looking for housing credits, or tax credits for this project, so that's what it was time sensitive for tonight.
So it didn't go through last year, and they're trying again?
Correct.
Because now they got the money?
Correct.
Okay,
I hope to get the money.
okay.
Yeah, we charged them.
Well, they got this money, right?
Yeah, to hold over us or to give to us, to hold it. Apparently, they've got that amount.
Okay.
We're in deep trouble if they don't have that amount. Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coombs.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nell.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. And Mr. Coons, I believe you have a resolution for board consideration.
I do. I have a resolution adopting a Calamity Day alternative makeup plan. I present the resolution as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
For this discussion, Superintendent, would you like to kind of present your report on this, and then that'll take care of the next item on the agenda, too?
Certainly. As you have
Thank you.
heard, there's been lots of snowy weather and cold days. Cincinnati Public Schools has used 7 calamity days. You're only allowed 5 in the state of Ohio. So there's 2 things I'm requesting in the superintendent's report in a few minutes. I've asked you to approve a revised calendar because today, the 10th of February, February was planned as a professional development day for teachers. Instead, we had the children come to school because we've only had one full week of school since the winter recess. So I would like you to approve that revised calendar, making that change. That would make up for day 6. So we are still short a day, and the state does give the option of blizzard bags, which meaning you can either post work on the internet, or you can send homework with the youngsters. So we would like to make up the 7th calamity day by having teachers send homework with the youngsters. Laura Mitchell, our deputy superintendent, and the curriculum department have already posted lesson plans for the teachers, or they can certainly send home their own materials. So what we need in order to do this, the ODE requires this resolution be approved. They also require a letter of consent by the teachers union, which Julie Sellers has already sent to me, and there's some online forms that we have to do. We have to send it to ODE and then wait for their approval. So the request is tonight for the 3-day blizzard bags. Hopefully we'll only have to use one, but heaven forbid in the next 2 weeks we have yet another day. Yeah. This would cover us for 2 additional days. Now also, you know, Governor Kasich has asked the House in Columbus to move forward some additional days, but the legislators were on recess, so we'd have to wait for them to come back. Then when they come back, it has to get out of the House committee, be approved by the House, go to the Senate, and be signed to the governor. So that could easily take a month, 2 months, and so at least the blizzard bags would cover us for this additional day as we wait to see what else is going to happen. Just a note of interest, this is the last year for the 5 calamity days. In the future, it will be number of hours. So when you put together your calendar, you want to have additional hours so that you can cover extra calamity days/hours, but by not requesting days, but number of hours. So we'll make sure, right now we know at the elementary level, our elementary day is quite long, so our youngsters will have no trouble covering 8 calamity days at the elementary level next year. We will be working with CFT in negotiations. Our high school days need to be lengthened in order to put in those extra minutes, so when a calamity happens, the high school youngsters won't have to come to school or make it up. So that's where we are, but that's looking to the future. Tonight is just blizzard bags for 3 days.
Any questions?
I have a couple questions. So in the very last paragraph, it says, you know, if kids don't have an alternate for using computers, they can receive the blizzard bags on the first day that their school reopened.
This is language that we had to take out of the ODE. They've changed that. You can request it after the fact.
Okay.
At any time. This was the original language that they put out there, but they have since had to revise it for all of us.
Great, that was one concern. My other one, what happens if kids don't do this, right? It's not about just making up days, it's about we want our kids to learn. So what happens if is it just that we have to put it out there, or they have to turn it in?
They have to turn it in, and it says it'll be graded as makeup work. So it would impact the youngster's grade if they don't do the work.
Okay.
Call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
Aye, and Superintendent, is that your report, or do you have another one?
Yes, that is my
All
report.
right. Do I have a motion to approve the revised recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nelms and Mr. Coons, is there a discussion or question regarding the revised recommendations of the superintendent? I would just like to make note of something that the superintendent pointed out to Mr. Nelms and me today regarding the 2 principal appointments. And perhaps if you would speak to those 2, that would be great. I think it's on the first page
Certainly.
of the
Yes.
recommendations.
It is on page 1 of the recommendations.
I missed it, and it's good news.
It is good news. Rockdale School, the LSDMC has asked that the interim principal, Belinda Tubbs Wallace, become the permanent principal starting tomorrow. And the same has happened at Woodford. Paideia, Jesse Moore has been the interim, and the LSDMC has opted to keep him and make him the permanent principal. So this certainly is good news, and LSDMC does have the right to do this. They can interview if they want, or they can send a letter saying, we forego the opportunity to interview other individuals, we're happy with this person, and we want to keep them.
Any other questions or comments about that or anything else within the recommendations? Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman. Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye, and congratulations to those two principals. Do I have a motion to approve the revised report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Mrs. Bates, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Can I ask a quick question about the treasurer's report? I swear this is my last question for the night, y'all.
No, hold on. We got a first and a second. Now, go ahead.
Okay, so obviously the folks from Gamble have come quite a few times since this new board has taken on, and we understand that the problem predates this board. It predates most of us who are here, in that their school was not part of the facilities master plan. But I think we also are aligned that we need that to be a learning environment that we are proud of and our students and families can be proud of. And I just noticed on number 4 on the treasurer's report, the receipt of an anonymous donation. I know $1,000 doesn't get them much of what they want, but I'm wondering if that's a start, if that can be allocated to Gamble.
I could get you a carpet for $200.
Well, number 4?
Are you selling
Yes.
yours?
Are you saying number 4?
Number 4, there's a receipt of an anonymous donation, and it's supposed to be used for upkeep and repair.
That looks like sounds like a lovely idea, and it doesn't have for any particular school. I think that would be wonderful.
Okay.
To give them $1,000.
At the will of the entire board.
Is that
Because that's going to be a change to the, well, I'll give you school buildings. Okay, so
So you guys choose which school building?
the entire board is saying yes to
I encourage you to use it for.
assigning that to Gamble.
That's possible. If that's possible, that'd be great.
Lovely idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
Fantastic.
It is a start, and you want every child to have a fabulous new building, but, you know, Gamble, Hyde Park, and Taft are not part of the facilities master plan because the High School Facilities Commission knew we did not need an extra high school for the 330 youngsters at Gamble. So the previous board said, yes, we want to give them a school, and at that time, the LSDMC at Gamble has said, we'll take the building as is. And I know we've put about $4 million into it, but it will never look like our new buildings. And I know Robin Brandon, who's here tonight, I know she has been working with the principal, Mr. Joes over there, and we did look at widening the driveway, but there's also 12 parking spaces and handicap parking out there. So I think you have to be careful if you take away parking spaces, because our dream is that Gamble will grow into a 600-seat school instead of the little over 300 they have now, and then parking will be an issue. If we take away the parking now, a year from now, we'll be struggling probably with putting parking back in. So we just really do need to look and see. I know that Robin, our architect, is over there, so is Bill Mooring. It is a rather large building. It is an old junior high building that housed 1,100 students. And right now, there's a little over 300 in the building. So I know they're not using all of the building. Is that part of the issue, that they're only in part of the building and the other part has not, they haven't been?
No, the other part's been, phase 2 has been opened up. Mr. Jones is now using the entrance on the phase 2 side for student entry and buses and staff. So that's alleviated some of the congestion at that narrow driveway in front. So I think he's looked at operationally ways to improve that situation.
Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote?
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Thank you. Do board members have any updates or any other information that they would like to share? I know Mr. Coons has a report to share with us back from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Mr. Coons.
Board members will find a letter at their place, and I'll simply read it. I attended the National School Boards Association's first annual Advocacy Institute, formerly known as the Federal Relations Network Conference. It was held in Washington, D.C. from February 2nd through 4th, so that's where I was watching the Seahawks win. Attendees had the privilege to hear presentations from the legendary Bob Woodward and Bernice King. I also attended the following important training sessions: the public's attitudes towards public schools, which are better than I would have thought; visions of public education from across the political spectrum, which was very interesting; and then social media training. I'm coming for y'all in public affairs. We need to tweet more. That is the lesson I learned. Before heading home on Tuesday, I had the honor to meet along with fellow constituents from the Winton Woods and Forest Hills school districts on Capitol Hill with Senators Sherrod Brown and Rob Portman, as well as Representatives Steve Shabbat and Bob Wenstrup. In these meetings, our goal was to inform the congressmen of issues facing our school districts, including underfunded mandates such as IDEA, reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and also to ask for support in meeting some of the NSBA's federal advocacy goals. I'm pleased to report that during our meeting, Representative Shabbat agreed to sponsor H.R. 1386, the Local School Board Governance and Flexibility Act. One of the other school board members I was with in that meeting had been meeting with Representative Shabbat for about 15 years now and had never gotten any agreement from him whatsoever, so this was quite the monumental occurrence. The conference proved to be a very rewarding experience, and I bring back with me new knowledge, understanding, and a few personal connections in our state as well as the District of Columbia. And there's an issue brief for the legislation that Representative Shabbat did agree to sponsor attached to the letter.
Thank you very much, and more we want to have those report backs as we go. Anybody else have something to share? Mr. Manera?
I don't know if it falls into an inquiries or update or even assignments, but just going back to something we discussed earlier, and it's something that I brought up last time we met, which is this whole communication of our snow days and cold days. And I know our staff has been doing a great job at trying to make the right decisions, but as far as the communication goes, I know the tickers are limited, but we do have a wonderful website, and we have Twitter, and we have Facebook, and I know people are using them. They're using their phones to call me. So if we can just explore that, and if we can put it in Spanish, believe it or not, a lot of parents that speak Spanish do not watch the Channel 5 news or the Channel 12 news, and they are going to Facebook, and they are going to Twitter. So let's just explore that.
Yes, please.
I have been in discussion with Marie Kobayashi, and we do think there's some additional communication that we can get through the grant, the ELL grant, and also Namega, they agreed to actually set out some of our announcements.
That'll be great.
So we're moving in the right direction on that.
Amen. And the minute we get it right, it'll stop snowing. So we'll be ready for next year.
Follow up on that. At this training, they said the number one way to get more followers for your school district on Twitter is to tweet snow days and things of that nature. So
there we go.
I mean, if we could send a blast out tonight and tomorrow morning, who knows? We may get 100 more followers.
There we go.
A couple of other kind of announcements. I believe the board had homework from the retreat to submit some ideas and verbiage and inspirations to Mrs. Davis over there. Was that due, Mr. Coons, tomorrow?
By the end of business day tomorrow.
By the end of business day tomorrow, so you have your homework there. And then also, to remind you, I believe we have the retreat on February 18th, and we know about the time for that, to follow up on vision and mission. And the tentative date for the first meeting of the joint working group with the city and the school board. The tentative one is March 3rd, which is a Monday that we do not have board meeting, and it was at 6 o'clock. And the initial topic so far, just to get it off the ground, not surprisingly, especially based upon the mayor's initiative, is safety. And indeed, the superintendent's been told what people from the administration, the joint committee needs to hopefully see. And also the summer efforts regarding the cooperation between the district and the Recreation Commission, and our summer program regarding third grade reading guarantee and enhancement and what have you. So those will be the first two topics, and it'll all be worked out, and all members are invited, and it will be a noticed joint meeting, and it will operate under the sunshine laws, and they're anticipating both having the recreation director and the police chief, and then our counterparts as well, not only in safety and recreation, but for summer learning and what have you. So the superintendent's been informed of that. The first one will be at City Hall. Since we had the announcement at a school, now we're going to go to City Hall, and then the next time we meet, we'll come here so we don't have any turf issues.
That sounds great. When you talk about the safety initiative, and then you mentioned Cincinnati Recreation related to
The summer learning.
programming.
This was an ask that the superintendent already has made to the mayor, who was already very interested in trying to do that, so that we have that kind of partnership for the summer learning.
That sounds good.
And then the bigger issue that was, is going to be on the burner is also going to be, just they're now on the same budget cycle as we are. So those sorts of budget issues that we share will also be there.
I don't know if it's possible, but is it possible to add summer youth employment as it
That
relates
is,
to
yes, and that is for, my understanding is that they're looking at that for April.
That's usually the time
Because,
period.
yeah, because it really isn't necessarily ours or theirs, but that's when we have to get kind of the nonprofits involved.
That's good. That's what I'm
So
looking
that
forward
is the
to.
next one.
Excellent. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for being persistent about that.
Will be.
I know. Let's see, any assignments? I have one quick one that I think both the superintendent and the treasurer know about, and I hope the board agrees that for the next board meeting, the superintendent and the treasurer come back with the justification or let's say a recommendation regarding the need for the renewal and when that should be on the ballot. The $65 million renewal. We want to do a jump start and be earlier in that than we usually are. And I think the board had talked about that. So if you would, we'll put that on the agenda. It doesn't have to be an extensive effort, but your recommendation and justification. Any others? Sorry about the length, but it was all really good. Thank you. Good night.
Bill Miles.
No, I am freezing.
It's freezing in here.
Oh, my gosh.
Just a second. Bill.
Keeps everybody